Hi everyone, it's Sam with the Time for Science for this week's virtual science lesson. 2 weeks ago, when I met with you, we talked about leaves and how important leaves are to plants' survival. We talked about how leaves make food through the process called photosynthesis. Today, we're going to continue on our plant journey while we talk about roots and stems, two more very important plant parts. The stems of plants provide two really important things. Number one, they help hold the plant upright. Why do you think a plant that needs sunlight for growth would want to grow up? That's right, so they can get closer to the sun. So a stem holds the plant up and helps it get sunlight, but it also helps to move things up and down. So we know that sugars or food are made up in the leaves, but plants also need water and nutrients, which they get down from the soil below. In the stem, there are veins called xylem and phloem that move nutrients and water up the plant and move sugars down the plant. So xylem goes up and phloem flows down. The trunk of a tree is kind of like a giant stem. On the outside layer, just in this bark here, there's a layer called cambium where the xylem and phloem for the tree is contained. That's where all the important things that the plant needs move up and down the plant depending on where it's made. I wonder what these things are sticking up out of the ground here. Does anyone know? That's right, these are giant tree roots that go deep into the ground to pull up water and nutrients held in the soil. Roots serve another very important purpose. They make sure that the plant doesn't blow over with the wind. Look at how tall this tree is. Without a sturdy root system, all it would take is a heavy rain and a big gust of wind to blow it over. But these roots go down deep into the soil and usually as far out as the canopy of the tree to make sure that the tree stays stable even during big storms. Not all stems are as big and sturdy as a tree trunk. This is a pretty large stem. This is a stem from a vegetable that you've probably eaten before, although it looks a little bit different at this stage in its life. Does anyone know what vegetable this might be? This is asparagus. So you can see this big sturdy stem going all the way down. When you harvest asparagus to eat, you harvest it when it's a lot smaller and more tender and delicious. But when you eat asparagus, you are eating the stem of a plant. Sometimes we also eat plant roots. Can you think of a plant whose roots you might eat? There's one right here. Now these are growing really close together, so I'm going to thin them out to give them more space so they're not competing for nutrients and water. What plant root do I have here? That's right, this is a little baby carrot. Now if you look closely, you can see the main taproot of the carrot, but you can also see all these tiny roots coming out, searching for water and nutrients in the soil. So the next time you eat a carrot, know that you are eating a plant root. Today I have a lesson or an experiment that you all can try at home so that you can actually see how water, nutrients, and sugars are moved up and down the plant. For this experiment, you only need a few simple things that you can probably find around your house, probably in your kitchen. You'll need some celery. It's great if there's still some leaves attached at the top. Some food coloring, cups, water, and, like a good scientist, a nice observation journal. Now, celery is another example of something that we eat that has a stem and leaves. We eat both the stem and the leaves of celery. So you can see the stem right here. The roots have been cut off of this plant, and you can see the leaves up top. What we're going to do with this experiment is get a cup, add some water to your cup. Then you want to add some food coloring. Just a few drops should be enough, just enough to dye the water. We want to change the water so that we can watch how the water moves up the plant. If water didn't have food coloring added to it, we wouldn't be able to tell how it was moving about the plant. Once you have your food coloring mixed in and you've got your water dyed a nice color, then you just want to take a stalk of celery and stick it right down in the water. You want to take another stalk of celery that hasn't been put in water and make some observations. Hopefully you all remember from our video a little while back about how to make good scientific observations. Some good questions to ask yourself are, what do you wonder? What do you notice? And what does it remind you of? So I'll take a look at this stalk of celery. I may even break it open and look at the inside. I might want to take a hand lens if I have one and look a little bit more closely at the leaves. May want to smell it. Now, usually we do not taste anything in science experiments. I would say this isn't any different, even though this is a food item that we're working with. So we're not going to make any taste observations, but we can look at it, we can smell it, we can touch it. Doesn't make much sound, but we can listen to it if we need to. Make those observations, write them down. Day 1, what do you notice about this stalk of celery that has not been put in the water? Then you want to make an observation, maybe on day 2, about the celery stalk that's in the water. You can make this observation over 2, 3, maybe even 4 days and see what happens to your celery stalk throughout time. Keep a record of it in your journal and let us know what you find. Thank you all for joining me today, exploring a little bit more about plants. Today we talked about plant roots and how they pull water and nutrients out of the soil. And we talked about plant stems and how they hold plants upright and how they're also responsible for moving water and nutrients from the roots up to the leaves and moving sugars or food from the leaves down to the rest of the plant. Next week, we're going to explore flowers, another very important part for some plants. I hope you'll join me then.